Money is a mirage, a carefully crafted illusion that bends perception, distorts desires, and rewires the human mind into an endless loop of pursuit. We do not chase money itself. We chase the emotions it promises, the sense of security, power, and worth it falsely projects. But the more we seek it, the more its meaning mutates, slipping through our fingers like grains of sand. What once seemed like a means to an end becomes the end itself, an insatiable hunger that gnaws at the soul. This is the psychological trickery of wealth. It convinces us that more is always better, that the numbers in a bank account define the substance of a life. Yet, like a mirage in the desert, just as we believe we have reached fulfillment, the horizon shifts and the pursuit begins again. Psychology has long studied the phenomenon of hedonic adaptation, the tendency of humans to quickly return to a baseline level of happiness, despite significant positive or negative changes. A sudden influx of wealth, whether through inheritance, lottery, or career success, creates a temporary high, an intoxicating sense of possibility. But the mind, ever adaptive, normalizes the new reality. The luxury that once felt like a dream soon becomes ordinary, and a new standard is set, demanding an even greater level of excess. The initial thrill of financial success fades, leaving a vacuum that demands to be filled. And so, the cycle repeats. Jean-Jacques Rousseau once warned that the money you have gives you freedom, the money you pursue enslaves you. But how often do we recognize the moment when the pursuit becomes the prison? The illusion of wealth is not just personal, it is cultural, embedded into the very fabric of society. From childhood, we are conditioned to believe that financial success equates to personal success. The cars, the clothes, the towering glass offices, all symbols designed to separate the winners from the losers. But this is where the illusion deepens. Studies in behavioral economics reveal that beyond a certain point, an increase in income has little to no effect on happiness. A 2010 study by Nobel laureates Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton found that emotional well-being plateaus at an annual income of approximately $75,000. Beyond this, more money does not significantly contribute to day-to-day happiness. And yet, people do not stop chasing. Why? Because the illusion is not built on logic. It is built on desire, on comparison, on the subtle but powerful belief that one is only as valuable as their financial standing in relation to others. And so, we find ourselves trapped in an unwinnable game, one in which the goalposts are constantly moving. The modern economy thrives on dissatisfaction, on the careful orchestration of envy. The advertisements, the influencers, the corporate messaging, it all whispers the same seductive lie. You are almost there, just a little more, and you will be free. But true wealth has never been about numbers. It is about control, about the ability to dictate one's time, choices, and priorities without external coercion. The man who earns little but lives by his own rules is wealthier than the millionaire who is a prisoner of his obligations. The mind is not easily fooled, yet money has perfected the art of deception. It does not only alter what we desire, it alters who we are. It shifts moral boundaries, rewrites values, and quietly convinces even the most self-aware that they must play the game. But before one can escape the trap, one must first recognize it for what it is: a construct, a social agreement, a means, not an identity. For those who fail to see through the illusion, life becomes a perpetual climb toward a summit that does not exist. And what could be more tragic than spending a lifetime running toward a finish line that was never real? The rat race is not just an economic reality, it is a psychological prison, an invisible maze where people run tirelessly, believing they are making progress while unknowingly moving in circles. From the moment we enter the system, we are handed a script: study hard, get a good job, earn a stable income, buy a house, invest in retirement, and, if fortunate, enjoy a few years of freedom before death. It is a cycle so deeply ingrained that few ever stop to question it. But beneath the surface of this apparent stability lies a sinister truth. The race was never designed to be won. Like a treadmill set to an ever-increasing speed, the system ensures that the moment one reaches a perceived milestone of success, a new standard emerges, keeping the chase alive. Psychologists have long studied the mechanics of motivation. And one of the most insidious traps of the rat race is the way it manipulates the brain's reward system. The anticipation of financial growth, career advancement, and social status releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter responsible for pleasure and reinforcement. This creates an addiction not to money itself, but to the chase, the illusion of progress. The corporate world exploits this vulnerability masterfully, dangling promotions, bonuses, and the promise of a better future just out of reach. Each small victory provides a fleeting sense of accomplishment, but the underlying dissatisfaction remains, ensuring that workers remain engaged, striving for an ever-receding goal. The system does not reward success. It rewards continued participation. But perhaps the greatest trick of the rat race is its ability to disguise itself as freedom. We are told that hard work and financial discipline lead to independence, that wealth is the gateway to autonomy. Yet, in practice, the more one earns, the deeper the entanglement. A higher salary often means longer hours, greater responsibility, and an increased dependence on a lifestyle that demands maintenance. The bigger the house, the higher the mortgage. The more prestigious the job, the greater the sacrifices required to keep it. What begins as a pursuit of security morphs into a form of voluntary servitude. The golden handcuffs may be comfortable, but they are still restraints. The economist Thorstein Veblen coined the term conspicuous consumption to describe the way people spend money not for utility, but for status. In the rat race, this principle becomes a guiding force. The need to signal success drives people to acquire symbols of wealth, luxury cars, designer clothing, exclusive memberships, not for personal fulfillment, but for validation. The irony is that those who seem to have escaped the race are often the ones most deeply trapped within it. The executive with a seven-figure salary is no freer than the office worker living paycheck to paycheck. Both are bound by the same unspoken rule: keep running or be left behind. But who sets the pace of the race? The answer is society itself, a self-replicating machine that thrives on competition and comparison. The media glorifies the grind, idolizing those who sacrifice everything for success. Social networks amplify the illusion, curating highlight reels of affluence that distort reality and fuel insecurity. The pressure is relentless because the system depends on it. If people were to collectively reject the race, the entire structure would collapse. This is why the myth persists, that money buys happiness, that success is measured in accumulation, that stopping is failure. And so, people continue to run, convinced that if they just push a little harder, they will finally break free. But freedom is not found in running faster. It is found in stepping off the track. The moment one stops chasing illusions, the rules change. The rat race is not real, at least not in the way it is presented. It is a construct, a game with no finish line, played by those who never dared to ask the fundamental question: what if I refuse to run? The pursuit of financial freedom is riddled with contradictions. We are told that money is the key to liberation, that with enough wealth, we can break free from constraints, live on our own terms, and finally achieve peace of mind. But what happens when the very thing that promises freedom becomes the source of enslavement? The paradox of financial freedom lies in the way wealth can either serve as a tool for independence or a shackle that binds tighter with each passing success. The difference is not in the numbers, but in the mindset. For some, money is a means to an end. For others, it becomes the end itself, a goal that demands constant pursuit at the cost of everything else. The ancient Stoics understood this dilemma well. Seneca, one of Rome's wealthiest philosophers, warned against the illusion of security that money provides. He observed that the more a person owns, the more they fear losing it. This fear, in turn, breeds dependence. A man with nothing to lose walks through life unburdened, while a man who has accumulated great wealth finds himself surrounded by invisible walls, social expectations, lifestyle inflation, and the relentless anxiety of maintaining his position. Studies in psychology confirm this phenomenon. People who amass wealth often become trapped in a cycle of risk aversion, afraid to make decisions that might jeopardize what they have built. The irony is cruel. The very success that was supposed to bring peace becomes a source of perpetual stress. But the illusion runs deeper. Many believe that financial freedom is about reaching a specific number, a magic figure that, once attained, will allow them to step away from obligations and live freely. Yet, time and again, those who achieve their financial goals find themselves unable to stop. The hedonic treadmill ensures that once a person adapts to a certain level of wealth, their desires expand. A person who once dreamed of making six figures now finds it inadequate. A millionaire begins to measure themselves against billionaires. There is always another level, another milestone, another justification to keep playing the game. And so, instead of escaping the system, they become further entangled in it. This is why some of the richest people in the world continue working tirelessly, despite having more money than they could ever spend. They are not chasing wealth, they are avoiding irrelevance, the terrifying emptiness that comes when the game is no longer necessary. This is not to say that money is meaningless. Financial security provides comfort, options, and the ability to live without immediate fear. But beyond a certain threshold, it ceases to be a tool and becomes a measure of identity. This is the true danger, not the accumulation of wealth itself, but the way it subtly replaces deeper sources of meaning. When a person's sense of worth is tied to their net worth, when their purpose becomes synonymous with their earning potential, they are no longer free. They are bound by an invisible contract, one that demands their time, energy, and soul in exchange for numbers on a screen. True financial freedom is not about escaping work or accumulating wealth indefinitely. It is about control. It is the ability to choose how to spend one's time without external coercion. A person who lives modestly but owns their time is infinitely richer than a person with millions who cannot step away from their obligations. This is why the concept of enough is so radical. It defies the system, rejects the endless chase, and places power back in the hands of the individual. But recognizing this requires breaking a lifetime of conditioning, unlearning the belief that more is always better, and redefining success beyond material accumulation. The paradox of financial freedom is that it is not about money at all. It is about perspective, about understanding that wealth is only as valuable as the choices it allows you to make. Those who grasp this truth realize that the real measure of success is not how much they earn, but how much of their life remains truly their own. And in a world that thrives on keeping people running, nothing is more revolutionary than choosing to stop. Escaping the illusion of money is not about rejecting wealth, but about redefining its meaning. Society teaches us that success is measured in numbers, that a person's worth is reflected in their bank account, and that financial growth is synonymous with progress. But what if these are just constructs, artificial markers designed to keep us striving without ever questioning the destination? The real trap is not money itself. It is the belief that it holds the answers to life's most fundamental questions. The moment one stops seeking validation through wealth, the illusion collapses, revealing a truth that has been deliberately obscured. Real wealth is not what you have, but what you can live without. This realization is not easy. It requires unlearning decades of conditioning, breaking away from deeply ingrained narratives that dictate what it means to be successful. It means understanding that financial security is important, but beyond a certain point, accumulation becomes meaningless. Studies have shown that experiences, relationships, and personal fulfillment contribute far more to happiness than material possessions. Yet, people continue chasing wealth, convinced that financial milestones will eventually provide them with the peace they seek. But peace is not found in external achievements. It is an internal state, one that no amount of money can buy. This is why many who reach the pinnacle of financial success often feel a profound emptiness. They have played the game, won by its rules, and yet the victory feels hollow. The key to breaking free is shifting perspective. Money should be a tool, not an identity. A means, not a master. The moment one stops equating wealth with self-worth, the dynamic changes. The pressure to keep running fades, and with it, the fear of losing status or falling behind. The irony is that true financial freedom often comes not from having more, but from needing less. The person who requires little to be content is invulnerable to the rat race. They are no longer bound by the expectations of others, no longer trapped in the endless cycle of accumulation. They can walk away at any moment, not because they are rich in the conventional sense, but because they have freed themselves from the psychological dependence on money. This is not a call to reject financial success or ambition, but to recognize its limits. Money can solve practical problems, open doors, and provide comfort. but it cannot replace meaning, cannot fill the existential void, cannot substitute for real connection and purpose. The most valuable things in life remain beyond its reach. The moment one stops seeing money as the answer, they begin to reclaim their life. They start making choices based on desire rather than necessity, spending time on things that matter rather than things that impress. This is the real escape, not from money itself, but from the illusions built around it. Because in the end, the greatest wealth is not what you own, but the freedom to live without fear. And that kind of wealth cannot be measured, only experienced.